Hi Scorpio. Welcome to your December reading. The sun is setting. It is gorgeous. The clouds have just gone from a soft pink to a lavender gray. But there is a streak of bright orange underneath it all. Still burning. Oh boy, what an eventful season you had. Welcome to Sagittarius season. Ooh, you feel very much like yourself. It was a crash and burn and be reborn kind of thing, just like you like it. So you're feeling great. You're feeling like you're feeling strong and confident. By the way, we're only doing the astrology in the second part. So right now we're just dealing with the cards as they are. Intuitive, getting back to basics, back to the beginning. You feeling so much like you, so compelling you are, so convincing. You can have what you want. You can persuade who you want. You can change the look of what you want. You can acquire great wealth at this time. And it is all fueled by this sense of knowing, by this almost Zen-like acceptance of self that happened over the course of Scorpio season. You just gave into it. Like, yeah, that's how I am. That's what I am. Sure, I'm fine with it. Not apologizing for it anymore. Just know, excuse me. Just know I just don't want it. You know, the sun moves into a space where it wants to show you what's going on behind the curtains when it comes to your work life and how your work life is structured and how you could be making much more off of your money, not just how you're, earning your money, but what you could be doing with that money. You, in Sagittarius season, get a better understanding of what you really want and are your goals up to date, the things we all wanted when we were younger or when we had less. Of course, these things evolve, they change. Where's your check-in? Have you checked in? Sagittarius season is one of those times where you notice, my goals, my long-term fantasies, whatever, they've changed, and then you can use that as a beautiful place to start to look into what happens next and what do I work on to create these new dreams in my reality, to manifest them into my reality. The most important part of Sag season for you is being able to pull back that curtain and get access to the magician's knowledge, to that access to that asymmetry of power where you know more than the people around you, where you have a better understanding of the framework behind things than they do, giving you that edge, giving you that advantage. And that's it's the type of advantage, this hidden knowledge, access to hidden knowledge, access to hidden truths or hidden agendas or connections. This is a very scorpionic kind of power as well. You love this kind of stuff. So to have that energy in your work sector and finance and in furthering yourself and creating more wealth, this is fun and it's nice and it's a great way to spend a season after working really hard and having to make sense of a lot of people's feelings and having to tell a lot of people truth that perhaps put you at a disadvantage socially or emotionally. So you've done a lot of hard work, so of course you deserve this abundance, this success. More than anything, I'm just happy to see you becoming more and more comfortable with who you are, and more comfortable with being able to articulate your intensity in a way that is to your advantage and opens the door to people getting to know you better and having less misconceptions about you, and you being able to use that openness to create more abundance, more opportunity, and ultimately more happiness in your life, more awareness in your life. It's just a beautiful thing to see. Proud of you. It's not easy. I'm proud of you. You're doing great. You're making it look good too. Of course. Yeah. Love you. The more you've gotten to know about yourself, the more accepting you've become, which was all, because of this rebirth that you were ready for and you accepted it, the better you've gotten at communicating yourself, your needs, your wants, and also your ambitions, because of course it's all tied together. The more accepting you've become of yourself, because as we all know, the death rebirth is just one step closer to you. That's just your particular method of getting there. Of course, the better you become at articulating your needs, because you understand your needs better. So this Hermit, 8 of Pentacles, Queen of Swords process, it's beautiful knowing your needs, working on understanding yourself better, and then being able to communicate those needs in a really fluid and articulate and without emotion, just the facts. It's great. And it shows a level of self-acceptance and maturity that I think a lot of people are really happy to see within you. You no longer feel like explaining yourself. You're choosing not just to explain yourself, but to express yourself. And that's so different. It's such an important distinction that needs to be noted. You could also, of course, be dealing specifically with a Virgo that you feel that you need to tell a lot of things to, that you feel that you need to do a lot of work with, especially if you are a Scorpio rising and they are a Virgo sun. Ace of Wands and the Fool, and then the High Priestess. It is very likely at this time that something comes in. Ooh, there's a light rain beginning to fall again. That something comes in that is really risque. It requires you to step outside of what you are comfortable with. But if you choose to do so, don't rush at the opportunity. Become open to it, be accepting of it, but don't rush to try to integrate into that world or try to make those that scene or those people or that situation seem like it's normal for you. You don't need to do that. You need to just be open to the opportunity, accepting if it comes to you, but don't chase it and don't try to ingratiate yourself with it. That's very important, because it's not who you are. It's just something you're opening yourself up to and a chance you're willing to take to, perhaps expand your boundaries, but you don't need to in any way show up in that situation as if you are more involved than you are, or that you know more than you do, or just be true. Queen of Cups, 2 of Wands, Ace of Swords. So what's going to happen is, if you are open and true, you have this beautiful opportunity to take a pretty big risk, something again that takes you far out of where you are comfortable, creates a new mindset for you, creates a different way of thinking. It's all very positive. And of course, the Ace of Swords is a new way of thinking, but it also requires the cutting away of an old way of thinking, an old associate, an old, group of associates, or for most of us, it can be a bad habit, an old way of, viewing ourselves in the world. It can have to do with our self-image. A lot of times, if you are risk averse, that can be a direct result of low self-esteem, because you don't feel like you are worthy of well, first of all, you don't feel worthy of whatever reward would come from the risk taken, but you also don't feel worthy or capable of handling the risk lest something go wrong. And then we have here Temperance, the Magician, the Star, and the Seven of Pentacles. A lot of cards fell out at once. Now, Sagittarius season for you is most incredible because it gives you such a beautiful window into this work energy that can bring about huge promotions for you. You know, the sun moves into a space where it wants to show you what's going on behind the curtains when it comes to your work life and how your work life is structured and how you could be making much more off of your money, not just how you're earning your money, but what you could be doing with that money. You in Sagittarius season get a better understanding of what you really want and are your goals up to date, the things we all wanted when we were younger or when we had less. Of course, these things evolve, they change. Where's your check-in? Have you checked in? Sagittarius season is one of those times where you notice, my goals, my long-term fantasies, whatever, they've changed, and then you can use that as a beautiful place to start to look into what happens next and what do I work on to create these new dreams in my reality, to manifest them into my reality. The most important part of Sag season for you is being able to pull back that curtain and get access to the magician's knowledge, to that access to that asymmetry of power where you know more than the people around you, where you have a better understanding of the framework behind things than they do, giving you that edge, giving you that advantage. And that's it's the type of advantage, this hidden knowledge, access to hidden knowledge, access to hidden truths or hidden agendas or connections. This is a very scorpionic kind of power as well. You love this kind of stuff. So to have that energy in your work sector and finance and in furthering yourself and creating more wealth, this is fun and it's nice and it's a great way to spend a season after working really hard and having to make sense of a lot of people's feelings and having to tell a lot of people truth that perhaps put you at a disadvantage socially or emotionally. So you've done a lot of hard work, so of course you deserve this abundance, this success. More than anything, I'm just happy to see you becoming more and more comfortable with who you are and more comfortable with being able to articulate your intensity in a way that is to your advantage and opens the door to people getting to know you better and having less misconceptions about you, and you being able to use that openness to create more abundance, more opportunity, and ultimately more happiness in your life, more awareness in your life. It's just a beautiful thing to see. Proud of you. It's not easy. I'm proud of you. You're doing great. You're making it look good too. Of course. Yeah. Love you.
Hi Scorpio, welcome to a redo of the second part of your video. The first part, it's so funny because I wasn't all the way happy with it, and now my program won't let me add it to the first part, so it's unusable. If you're on Patreon, you got the second part already. I'm happy for you. You get 3 readings. You probably deserve it because you waited so long and you were so patient. Okay. But since we are here and we're doing the second part, and I feel like you've been so patient, I'm just going to give you a little extended flavor in your part 2. Now that you can see the cards, check it out. There you are, and there's the Hermit. You have some really big changes to make, and they need to be made in the next 2 weeks. After Venus retrograde begins, it's really when you start to make some real progress. So to be quite honest, your reading doesn't actually start until the 19th, but until then you're in this prep mode. And the best thing that you can do for this prep mode is really just get your self-image to a place where you feel happy with it and you feel confident. The way your energy is set up right now, it reminds me of that really famous clip. There's a movie out right now about Serena and Venus Williams' father, in which Will Smith is playing him. But in the real world, right, there was a moment when his daughter was asked, I'm pretty sure it was Serena, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, if she could beat her opponent, and she said yes. And then the interviewer asked her again, and she said yes. And then the interviewer tried to ask her again in a different way. And her father interrupted and really gave the guy a piece of his mind and told him that he was trying, the father got on him. Mr. Williams got on him and was like, why are you trying to destroy her confidence? Like, what's your problem? Like, don't you understand that her confidence and her belief in herself is a major part of her winning? Why would you do that to her? And the thing that always stuck out to me about that scene, even though it's a really powerful example of like a parent standing up for their kid, it's a really powerful example of believing in the self-image and the power of the mind. It's all of those beautiful things. But the thing that always stuck out to me was that when, she was so placid and controlled and confident and friendly in her responses, she didn't let any of what was going on underneath that show. The interviewer's questions were actually hurting her feelings, and it was making her doubt herself. But she didn't let that show because she was trained to not, okay? And also, of course, she has an enormous amount of pride. She's an athlete and she's really good. But the moment, if you go back and you search that scene, you watch it on YouTube, the moment that her father starts to stand up for her and hits a nerve when he says, why would you do that? Why would you try to destroy her confidence like that? This is a young girl. The moment that he says that, they cut to her face. And she breaks character for a second, and you can see her face crumples into an expression of pain. Because what the interviewer was doing to her was really hurtful. And she didn't have the space to admit that until her father made a little bit of space for her by standing up for her and pushing that guy's energy back so she could have a little bit of room. Okay, she didn't let it show, but only when her father came to her defense and created a little bit of room did she have the space and the opportunity to be a kid and to express that her feelings were hurt. Now, you don't see it for more than a second because, again, she is trained. She is a professional. A child professional is a daunting thing, right? Now, why do I tell you that? I tell you that because that man understands the power of perception and of self-perception, okay? And in that clip, you can see him defending it. You can see her pain when someone is trying to attack that same self-image, and you can see how the attack is orchestrated, how nice and friendly it is, which is what makes it so incredibly snaky and dangerous. He's asking her things that are meant to make her undermine her, that are meant to undermine her confidence in herself. But he's doing so in such a nice, sweet, almost coy way that it gets into her. It gets in her head. It worms its way in there. Now, why go into this long, protracted story? Every time you hear that sound, it's because I'm hitting this chair next to me, and it's really irritating. And sometimes when I'm not in such a good mood, I do that. I'm so sorry. I apologize. But it's very satisfying, especially when something hits your elbow 10 times. So, getting back to it. You are now that girl. Okay? But you are also the dad. You have to be both. This is a big part of reparenting yourself. And I think for you, 2022 is all about reparenting yourself. So this is not to say in any way that you've had bad parents. This is not to say that you weren't given the right building blocks or that you are in some way lacking. This is reparenting like that Williams interview, because that interview is as much about her dad as it is about her, right? This is reparenting yourself to make room between you and those who would, in subtle and not so subtle ways, try to undermine you, undercut you, and the most dangerous thing they could do, make you doubt your own value. Now, in the past, we've talked at length about, ad nauseum actually, about how other people, especially romantic relationships, can undercut your value, can have you feeling like, make you feel a little funny. Like, maybe I don't deserve this stability. Maybe I don't deserve this happiness. This person's making me feel like the reason I'm not getting what I need is because I don't, I don't deserve it. Now, we've talked a lot about that. But I don't think that's what this is in 2022. And I certainly don't, and December for you is just the kickoff. This is the ramp, right? I don't think it's about a romantic relationship. I think you are surrounded by people, some of whom, and we have this talk about once a year, so let's have it. You are surrounded by people, some of whom are incredibly close to you, some of whom by tradition or culture you're supposed to be tied to for the rest of your life. And yeah, that person does a shit job on your self-image, and they have every time you're around them, and they continue to do so. For some of you, it's more than one person. For some of you, let's be really honest now, when that interviewer goes for you and starts to undercut your confidence, some of your people back that guy up instead of standing up and making room for you. Well, December and all of 2022 for you, inshallah, is not about waiting for someone to come out of the rafters and take your side and stand up for you. Okay? This is not about somebody else making room for you. You're the daughter, you're the father, you're both. You've got to stand up to these people and make room for this inner child that's getting battered. It's one thing to be treated badly, to be betrayed, to be diminished by people we don't care about, we don't even really know. Like, ask about me. Like, mad people be saying mad shit about me, but I don't give a fuck. Like, what do I care? Right? It's not that. It's when it's your people. You know what I mean? Remember how we talked about a couple months ago, like, yeah, if you think I'm a bad guy, like, you don't even know how much of a bad guy I can actually be. Like, I'm the worst, right? And just, like, own it. And that's fine to do with the world, to do with the dunya out there. You know what I mean? Dunya to bahut kuch kehti hai. Like, the dunya, the world says a lot. It's fine. But when it's your people, when you realize that the person sitting right next to you, the person sitting across the room from you, the person that gets in your car every day, the person who hits you on the phone the most, is the person who is a snake in your garden, that's incredibly painful. Now, how about those of you who are going to wake up to the fact after the 19th, after the Venus retrograde begins, to the fact that the person who's not standing up for you, the person who's aiding and abetting those who would put you down, not believe in you, that person's you. It's the part of you that really wants to be liked. It's the part of you that wants to be accepted. It's the part of you that doesn't take very good care of itself and needs someone to blame. It's the part of you that gets withdrawn, and then in this strange way you become withdrawn and lazy at the same time. It's like you're withdrawn, but it's not even active anymore. It's like you go into a stasis, and none of that is going to work. This energy wants you confronting things. You see that hermit there. It wants you to tackle the bigger questions, but it wants you to do it with the Sagittarius energy, which is like, none of this is as serious as you're making it. Even if there is a huge problem here, you don't have to make it into more of a problem. Let's not exacerbate things. Let's solve them and move on. The Magician card is there to say, you probably have all the tools you need to make these decisions and take care of these issues. Nip them all in the bud and move forward clean. Move forward towards something that inspires you, something you actually want to do, something you like to do. Some of you are deeply entrenched in the career that you're in, and it's time to make the next move. Maybe that means writing a book. Maybe that means writing a manual. Maybe that means starting a show, starting a channel, whatever it is. You're at that point where we're slipping into the new year and, you feel like expanding, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But how are you going to expand when you have a bunch of people very, very close to you who are holding a knife to your throat. You know, because if you really love people, and like I've said many times in the past, your weakness is your attachments, because when you get attached, you get really, really, really attached. And anyone, God forbid, who figures out that your attachment is your weakness, they can really wreak havoc with you, right? So the people around you that are your weakness, be very aware that they know that. They know that you are super strong, and they know that they have the button. Imagine the kind of power that gives them. What I'm trying to say is that anyone who aids others in diminishing you, anyone who with their offhanded comments or lack of commentary has a way of putting you down, they're not in the dark about it. You may think they don't know what they're doing. You love to give benefit of the doubt when it's people you love. But what if I told you they do know what they're doing? What if they're completely aware that they have to do that because if somebody doesn't hedge you and cage you in, you're going to get too big. You get too big, too popular, too pretty, too strong. Can't have that. You got to have somebody around telling you you're not shit. You got to keep that person pretty close. They have to pretend to really, really love you, and they're only telling you this because you really need to know. When instead, you can keep your own counsel. You can back away from these different power struggles. You can understand that you have all the tools needed to solve your issues and move forward. And then you move forward being that parent to yourself, making that room for yourself, not letting anyone cut you down, confronting people. Hello, the Fool energy here. Confronting people when they do it. The most amazing part of that interview is that the reporter is being confronted and he doesn't know what to do because the point being made is valid. Okay, he tries his little, oh, you're being hyperbolic, you're taking this out of proportion, but it doesn't land. And what you end up watching is an extremely awkward, uncomfortable conversation between someone who is the mouthpiece, right, of a press organization, someone who was sent in there, it's very obvious, to make her doubt herself, to put some sort of a sheen on her, so she doesn't quite appear to be the superwoman that she is, because even then it was obvious, right? This obvious agenda that's draped in niceness, okay, is very uncomfortable to confront. It's the Southern thing. So, you know, in the South, people are super rude, super mean, but they do it with a smile. And they do it in a very nice tone of voice. It reminds me of, I'm just jumping all over the place, forgive me. It reminds me of that scene in Succession where the woman comes over, the bride's mother comes over to the groom and says, oh, isn't it wonderful how your parents paid for the wine and pitched in for the wine? And he says, yes, they did pitch in for the wine. She said, isn't it just lovely how they're running around telling everybody about it? And then she walks away. And the bride walks up to the groom and goes, hey, you know, what did my mom want? And the groom says, I think I was just got stabbed by your mom. I think your mom just stabbed me, but I'm not sure. And she says, yeah, you'll bleed out in about an hour. Meaning it'll take you that long to understand what was just done to you. This way of saying things that can completely level a person inside, but there's nothing that you can pin them to and say, you just said this, you made me feel like this. It's an amorphous, nebulous area that you can't really define, and yet he does a perfect job of defining it. And this man, this reporter who has been hiding behind this veil, right? This nebulous veil where he can kind of say things and get away with them. That veil is pulled back very quickly and he is exposed. And when he is exposed, it's uncomfortable to watch. So yes, there are going to be deeply awkward, uncomfortable moments coming up for you, but each one of them is very important. It's vital that you stop and take a beat and look around at the very closest people to you and see them as they really are. Perhaps in this venture, you'll also be aided by someone you can trust. Someone who kind of shows up and is like, you know what? I see a bunch of snakes around you too. Wouldn't be surprised if that person is another Scorpio. Okay? Now I understand why I had to do this again. This is fire! Okay, I'm gonna do the extended right now. I love you, love you, love you. Thank you for being so patient. You guys are the best. Everybody else is like, where's our videos? Where's our videos? But you knew it was your season, then that you would be last, and you haven't said anything, and it's just so wonderful, and I love you. Mwah.